My twin sister collapsed at my door with a black eye and broken ribs. And 3 weeks later, her abusive husband was in handcuffs screaming that I wasn't who he thought I was. And honestly, watching his face when he finally figured it out was the most satisfying moment of my entire life. I'm 32 years old, and my twin sister Emma is my absolute best mate. We've always been close, you know. That proper twin connection where you can feel when something's wrong even if you're miles apart. So when she stopped answering my calls for 2 weeks straight, I knew something was seriously off. Then one night at 11:30, there was this faint knocking at my door. When I opened it, Emma was standing there in the rain, hood pulled up, shaking like a leaf. She looked up at me and I actually gasped out loud. Her left eye was swollen shut, her lip was split open, and there were finger marks around her throat. I pulled her inside immediately and just held her while she sobbed. She didn't need to tell me who did it because I already knew. Her husband Richard, the successful banker who everyone thought was such a catch, Mr. Perfect with his fancy suits and expensive car and charming smile, the man who'd convinced everyone, including our parents, that he was the best thing that ever happened to her. But that night Emma told me the truth. How it started with him criticizing everything she did. Then it became controlling what she wore and who she spoke to. Then the pushing started. Then the slapping. Then worse. She said she'd tried to leave twice, but he always found her and convinced her to come back, promising he'd change. But he never did. He just got better at hiding the bruises. I remember sitting there on my sofa, listening to all of this and feeling this cold rage settle in my chest. Not the hot, angry kind of rage, the calculated kind, the dangerous kind. See, here's the thing about being an identical twin. We don't just look similar, we look exactly the same. Same height, same voice, same mannerisms, even the same small scar on our left eyebrow from when we fell off our bikes as kids. Emma was always the soft one, the people pleaser, the one who saw the best in everyone. I was always the stubborn one, the fighter, the one who didn't take rubbish from anyone. But physically we were mirrors, and that's when the idea hit me. I asked Emma if she trusted me, and she nodded. I told her I had a plan, but she needed to disappear for a while. She looked terrified and said Richard would kill me if I confronted him. I smiled and told her he wouldn't be confronting me. He'd be confronting her. Or at least he'd think he was. The next morning, Emma went to stay with our cousin in Scotland, somewhere Richard would never think to look. And I moved into their house in North London. I studied everything about Emma's life, how she did her hair, the perfume she wore, the way she walked, the nervous laugh she did when Richard got angry. I went through her phone and learned his patterns. He left for work at 7, came home at 8, expected dinner on the table by past. He drank 3 glasses of whiskey every night and fell asleep in front of the telly. He was predictable, arrogant. He never actually looked at Emma. He just saw what he expected to see, a woman he could control. That first evening when Richard came home, I was in the kitchen making dinner wearing Emma's clothes. He walked in, loosened his tie, and immediately started criticizing. Told me the house was a mess even though it was spotless. Told me I looked tired and unattractive. I just smiled sweetly and apologized like Emma would. He seemed satisfied and sat down to eat. But I was watching everything. Every word, every gesture, every flash of cruelty in his eyes. Over the next 2 weeks, I played the perfect submissive wife while secretly destroying his life piece by piece. I found his laptop password written in his office drawer because he was too arrogant to think anyone would dare look. That's when I discovered everything. He'd been embezzling money from his company for 18 months. Small amounts at first, then larger. He had a whole separate account in the Cayman Islands. He was also having an affair with a woman from his gym. I copied everything onto a USB drive and sent anonymous emails to his company's financial director and to his girlfriend's husband. Then I started messing with his head. I'd move his car keys, and when he asked where they were, I'd say he left them, exactly where they were now. I changed his alarm clock by 15 minutes so he'd be late for important meetings. I told him about conversations we supposedly had that never happened. When he got angry and said I was lying, I'd look confused and hurt and ask if he was feeling all right. Within 10 days, he was absolutely falling apart. His company launched an investigation into the missing funds. His girlfriend dumped him after her husband confronted her. He was sleeping terribly, drinking more, constantly paranoid. He kept saying something was wrong, that things didn't feel right. One night he actually grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise and demanded to know what I was doing to him. I looked him dead in the eyes and told him I wasn't doing anything. Maybe he was just losing his mind. The fear in his face was incredible. The final night, I made sure I had everything ready. I'd been recording him secretly for 2 weeks. Every threat, every cruel comment, every time he grabbed me roughly, I'd documented all the financial crimes. I'd even taken photos of the bruises he'd left on my arm. The rage in his face was spectacular, but there was nothing he could do with 2 police officers standing right there. As they put him in handcuffs, he was screaming that it was entrapment, that it wasn't legal, that I'd tricked him. I just stood there calmly and told him he'd done all of this to himself. I simply made sure everyone found out about it. They charged him with embezzlement, fraud, and assault. His company sacked him immediately and sued him for the missing money. His family disowned him when they found out what he'd done. He got 4 years in prison and lost absolutely everything. Emma came back once he was sentenced. She's been living with me for the past 6 months while she rebuilds her life. She started therapy, got a new job, even started dating someone new who actually treats her with respect. And me, well, I went back to my normal life. But sometimes I think about that moment when Richard finally realized he'd been played, that the woman he thought he'd broken and controlled had a sister willing to step into her shoes and burn his entire world to the ground. Some people say what I did was wrong, that I should have just called the police from the start. But here's the thing. Emma had tried that before, and he'd talked his way out of it. He was charming, connected, believable. The system would have failed her like it fails so many women. So I made sure there was so much evidence that he couldn't possibly escape. I made sure he paid for every single bruise, every threat, every moment of fear, and I'd do it all over again without a second thought. Because that's what you do for the people you love. You protect them, and if that means becoming them for a few weeks to take down the monster who hurt them, then that's exactly what you do. Richard learned the hard way that when you hurt someone, you don't just hurt them. You hurt everyone who loves them too. And sometimes that person looks exactly like the woman you thought you'd broken and is more than willing to make you pay for it.